Welcome to Talking True, where I have in-depth conversations with mystics, near-death experiencers, healers, and people waking up to the truth of who they are. Today, I'm really excited because we have a very amazing, wonderful healer with us today. She's my dear friend, DianeGoldner. I think I've known DianeGoldner for close to 20 years, if not more. And she has the most incredible story to tell about how she became, first of all, she was an investigative journalist. She went from being an investigative journalist to being an energy healer. So Diane, welcome, welcome. It's really great to have you join us today.
I am so glad to be here. Okay.
Excellent. So do you want to maybe just share a little bit about your story and about how you went from being a journalist to where you are now?
So yes, of course. I always like to share this story because I was a skeptic. Okay. And so, and an investigative journalist. So what happened is, I never know exactly where to begin it, but I'll begin really at the beginning, which is that I was doing a piece for the New York Times, and I profiled a woman who had started a charity called God's Love We Deliver. And she had an incredible story. It was one of these stories everyone in New York read. And I got so many phone calls. It was very inspiring because she was searching for God and wanting to make a difference and really be uplifting to other people. And so she started helping people with AIDS, bringing them meals. And it turned into this really huge charity with a lot of socialites on the board and the whole bit, but bringing wonderful hot meals to people with HIV and AIDS. And after the story ran, and she'd had this amazing spiritual awakening. After the story ran, she called me up. She said, Diane, I'd really like you to meet my teacher. And I thought to myself, she said, it's going to change your life. I thought, yeah, right. It's like that could happen to her. That was a good story. But I thought, wow, that would make a really great magazine article, this amazing teacher right upstate in New York, and the teacher was a woman. So I said I would go, and so I went, and it was New Year's Day. I'll never forget. And I was kind of hungover. I'd gone to one of these horrible parties that last all night and nothing happens except people get drunk. Okay. I was thinking, is that all there is? I mean, these are like the fabulous people. And so I went up and I met this teacher. And, when I went before her, I thought to myself, I mean, Ganga was just chatting away and I could not speak if you had paid me. I just was completely frozen like a deer in the headlights. I didn't understand that was the energy, but it was. And so anyway, the day went by and I just thought to myself, I cannot write a story about this because these people are just, they're deluded. They think she's got something, And I mean, that's where I was. Okay. So, and I even received a gift. The teacher gave me this beautiful box of chocolates, and Ganga was like, I was giving them away to her daughter and her daughter's friends. And Ganga had like a meltdown. She's like, you can't give those chocolates away. They're for you. She said, you have to go home and put them in the freezer. They've got the Shakti in them. I didn't know what Shakti was. She said, and whenever you need a little help, just take a little bite. I was like, okay, she's really, but I did. I went home and I did it, and on the way home, I remember Ganga saying to me, she said, I really think you got it. And I was so angry. I just was like, got what? I was so disappointed. I was like promised this. So part of me just really wanted what she had promised. And I felt like I wasn't any different. Mm-hmm. Of course, it doesn't happen in an instant, right? You're talking about a huge inner transformation, but I didn't understand any of that. Anyway, after that, I started meditating healing every single day. And the other thing that happened, I mean, many things happened, but I'll just state my story here, my immediate story. So a friend fixed me up on a blind date. So with a nice psychiatrist. I went on this date and he pulls a book out of his satchel, and it's a book on healing. And I'm thinking to myself, again, this is where I was in those days. I thought to myself, oh my God, this guy should be committed. There he is, he's a psychiatrist and he should be committed. I mean, I'm eternally grateful to this man. I never had another date with him. It was just for this event. I looked at the book and I was mesmerized. I mean, it was literally like, one part of me was like, this couldn't possibly be true. And the other part of me was like, oh my God, if this is true, it's the most amazing scoop. Remember, I'm a journalist.
Yes.
Imagine. And, you know, and there were pictures of spirit guides. And, you know, it was really like somebody seeing pictures of naked people for the first time. Do you know what I mean? It was like
yes.
Revelation. And at the same time, I thought this couldn't possibly be true. But I thought, okay, I'm an investigative reporter. I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to get a magazine assignment and find out if this is real. So I did. And by the end of the magazine assignment, I thought to myself, holy moly, this is real. And if it's real, there must be some science that kind of supports it. And I'm going to investigate that and how these people do that. And so that's what I did. And the book took about 5 years, and I was interviewing all the top healers at the time who were teaching and sitting in on all the classes. And every time they would say they could do this or that, I would try it because I thought that couldn't possibly be true. And every time it was true, I could do the same thing. And I was just like, and it was, for me, it was so easy. I couldn't even believe it. And anyway, so that went on. My book came out. I was very eager to go back to a nice, cushy magazine job. Writing a book was very wonderful, but exhausting and intense, you know?
Yes.
And I remember saying to a friend, it's just going to be like 10 magazine articles. And he laughed his head off. Okay. So anyway, so that's, you know, so I was looking for a job. Meanwhile, I was going on the radio talking about my book, and people would always ask for a healing, you know, where could they find me? And I went to Canyon Ranch to give a book talk. And again, I did a demo, not because I was a healer, but just, you know, just because I was there. And people were like calling me in my room and talking to me at 6 a.m. on the morning walk. And I'd be like, I'm a journalist, I'm not a healer. And, and I'd go on interviews for a job, and the editor would start telling me what was going on in their personal life and burst into tears. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to get this job. So anyway, that went on for a while. And eventually I realized one door was literally locked, the door to my journalism life, and the other door was wide open. And if I wanted to, that I needed to follow the path that was set before me. It was really hard. I mean, now I'm so grateful because I love what I do. I love being a journalist, but what I do now fits so much more of me. But it was, I went kicking and screaming. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yes. And didn't you say that you cried, or you cried through frustration or whatever?
Oh, you know, the first few years of my meditation, I hate to say it, and my healings, because I've had more healings than anyone on the planet, probably. I was really, and I still am, an energy junkie. So, you know, there's just so much stuff that we're not even aware is in there. And it all has to leave. You know, the higher you go vibrationally, all these things are going to leave you. It's not always a gentle process.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, plenty of tears.
Yes. So you then went, when you realized journalism was done, did you do any trainings with anybody? How did that kind of
Well,
all
I'd been training the whole time, and there was one healer that was studying with Barbara Brennan, Gerda Swearingen, who I consider my first mentor. And I remember when I was sitting in on a course, and she asked a question, and I didn't think in these terms, or didn't understand I thought in these terms, but when she spoke, that whole question just lit up. And I thought, oh my God, this is somebody I have to talk to.
Mhm.
And she very gently, whenever I would ask her something, she would turn it around. So if I would say, oh, what are you seeing? Because I didn't think I could see anything psychically, clairvoyantly. She would ask me what I was seeing, and I'd be like, oh no, I can't do that. And she would persist and insist and teach me. And so, she was really my first mentor, in addition to all these courses I was taking. And then I started doing exchanges with people I was meeting, and I took a lot of courses. And so I've never stopped. It's an ongoing process. The most important thing about being a healer is healing yourself. In the beginning, I thought it might be where you put your hands. It's like, okay, it's where they put their hands.
Yes, yes.
and then you do long distance healings and you realize, no hands, mom. So it's your level of focus and consciousness and intention and the clarity and I make the analogy of regular light has a lot of different random direction. And when I do my healings, it's like the laser light. I'm totally focused. Now a laser can cut through steel because all the light is going in one direction. There's no randomness to it. It's all focused. So I've lost my train of thought, but basically, my training was all the classes and a lot of work with inner work that I've never stopped doing.
And yes, and today you work with people across the globe, right?
Yes, I see people in person in Los Angeles, and I have people call me from Singapore, Japan, Australia, Europe. Yeah.
Wow. So do you want to just kind of share a little bit with viewers what that would look if somebody reached out to you, let's say online? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should share some stories first, and then
yes, that would be good.
And then people have an idea of what healing can do, because healing at the most basic level is going to make someone feel just calmer, and that's much more important than people realize. But I can go in and I once had an Olympic athlete call me on the eve of the games, and this person had fractured some bones in the foot. I want to be careful so I don't identify this.
Yes.
And so they were going to be sidelined, benched after all those years of work. And her physical therapist told me to call her, told her to call me. So I did, and I did maybe 2 or 3 healings in rapid succession. I was living in New York at the time, I think. Maybe I was in LA. And this person was in somewhere else. And I did those healings, and they were able to participate in the Olympics and won gold and multiple medals for the team and individually.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and I never know what's going to happen. I can never promise that result, but I feel like the energy always brings things to a higher order. And you never know what exactly, you might think what that's going to look like, but we don't know. So sometimes it might be helping somebody get pregnant. It might be helping somebody resolve cancer. But again, I can't promise that. So when somebody calls me, we would set up a time. I might ask them what their focus is in advance, just so I can think about it a little bit. And when we have this session, I would ask questions around what's going on in that person's life. It's not, I just went to the doctor the other day and, she took all the blood work and all of this. She did not ask me a single question about myself. I was just like, I couldn't even believe it. So when somebody comes for a healing, I want to know who they are, because things aren't happening in isolation. They are usually have something to do with your life and maybe what you need to know or do. It's kind of guidance from your soul. Your body is speaking to you. And so what's going on in their life is very relevant. Often they're sick, there might have been a precipitating event, something a year or two earlier. And so I ask about that. And then I have that person lie down and relax eyes, and I work with their energy system. So that could be in person or long distance. It really doesn't matter. And which I know is, that was one of the things when I was a journalist, I thought, yeah, that, and you can sell me the Brooklyn Bridge. But I bought the Brooklyn Bridge. So it's really amazing at first when you have a long distance healing, because I've had them and I've given them and I've received them, and either way people feel the energy, and it's just amazing. It's, you really realize there's other dimensions to who we are. And so, at the end, after I've run the energy, I would talk to a person about what's going on. And I usually say it takes about a week for everything to integrate. Now that can sometimes be shorter or longer, but that's how, that's a guesstimate. So I worked with one woman, this was years ago, who was 7 or 8 months pregnant at the time, I think 7 months. And, and during this session, I remember I asked her, did you have a C-section? Because she'd had a child earlier. And she said, no. Anyway, so 2 months later, when she gave birth, she said they were about to give her a C-section. And all of a sudden, the room just filled with light. And I can't even remember the details, but she was able to give birth naturally. And she knew that it had something to do with the healing. So that's a longer arc, right? So you never know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really incredible. I mean, having had healings with you in person and long distance, they really are profound. And the fact that you have built an incredible business, healing business over the years, is a testimony to the way you work and what you have to offer. It's really remarkable.
Thanks.
And you've also written books about the whole story, right? I think.
Yes. Do you want me to talk about them and show?
Yes.
I have them here because I'm a proud mama. Okay, so this is the first one. And this is the one, if you want to know about the science, you would read this. When I came out with this book, my mom was like, maybe if you had left out the science, you would have had a bestseller.
Wow. That's so funny.
Yeah. But I mean, I was in a place by the time I put all the science together, I didn't need it because I knew the healings work, but it really helped me anyway to understand that it is really complete. I joke, but I like to say that I'm doing 25th century medicine.
Yes.
Because one day we will understand the science behind it. I feel like I do. And it has to do with the quantum dimension. So the healings are affecting like the subatomic particles and, all kinds of things on another dimension of reality, but it is real,
Yes.
So anyway, so that's the first book. And there's a lot about how healers work and things like that. And then these two books came out almost at the same time. So Yes, You Can Heal and Awakening to the Light. And this was going to be a trilogy, but I had a baby. And, who's your godson?
Yes,
Anyway,
yes.
this is really about how I became a healer. So the story I told in the beginning is in here, and a lot of different early experiences with energy. And then this one is case studies and different guided meditations people can do. So the case studies are help you to understand how you could think about what's going on in your own life and your own body and how to heal it. And then
Wow.
the guided meditations are, will help you do that. So,
Yeah, thanks for that. So, the thing that I would say as well is, and I found it through my own books, is that these books are vehicles for the awakening power or the Shakti or whatever you want to call it. So I'm sure you've had responses from readers that validate that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people will find me through my books. They'll read my books and then they'll think, wow, I want to have a healing.
Mhm.
And I do think they're all awakening, because they're all bringing you into this other dimension that is, as you know, not only real but more fundamental. So I liken the healings to when you go into, let's say you have a big work project and you print out your document and lo and behold, the page numbers are wrong, or the chapter heading, or there's a typo somewhere, or all of the above, and you think, oh my God.
Yes.
And okay, you could go get the whiteout and you could white out the problem and write in something, or whatever. Even if your handwriting's neat, it's never going to look great.
No.
Perfect. No, but if you go back into the computer, into the matrix, right, and just press a few buttons and change the ones and the zeros somewhere in some other dimension, you can print it out and it's going to look perfect.
Yeah.
And so I feel that that's what I'm doing when I do a healing.
Yes. And also helping, because I know from direct experience and also from what you've shared, helping people see the root cause of the problem rather than just trying to kind of heal it fast or get rid of it or whatever we're accustomed to through orthodox medicine.
It's so, I really, it's when you're sick, when you're not feeling well, or when something, because I do work on some non-physical things too. When things aren't going the way you want them to, it sucks. There's no question. We've been there, right?
Yeah.
But it's part of your process of growth. And I remember, very early when I was reporting, my first book, and I had an earache, and I went to the doctor and prescribed an antibiotic, and it didn't get better. And they prescribed a second antibiotic, and it didn't get better. And Gerda, my first, mentor, she was like, Diane, she said, what is it that you don't want to hear? I was like, that's ridiculous. So annoyed, you know what I mean? And so I'm sure people get annoyed with me too, but I got off the phone with her and I thought, what is it? I thought about it, and it came to me. And you know what? The third antibiotic worked. As soon as I got the answer, that the antibiotic worked.
Yes, yes. Because it's not about throwing out orthodox medicine and not going to see the doctor, but it's about using the energy medicine in tandem. If you need to go see a doctor, that's great. The really looking at the core, the root cause is going to be the kind of the fastest, most expedient way of seeing what you need to see, hearing what you need to hear, and working with it energetically.
It allows medicine to work. Sometimes the medicine won't work unless sometimes it will.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Yes. And also, the thing that I've found is that it's really empowering to know that you can do that work from the get-go. Now, for years now, whenever I get a headache, for example, or ear infection, whatever the story is, I go straight to, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What are you here to teach me? You know, and then you can figure out what do you need to do to take care of it. And
So
it's great.
Because it gives you a way to move forward in your life and take your you know, like, let's say you need to stand up for yourself at work or something and you're not doing it, and you know, so you have whatever the problem is until you do that, maybe a sore throat because you can't speak up, or you know, whatever it is. But it can be hard work.
Yes.
You know, so you know, it's nice when it happens really fast, but you know, there is some situation, and I've worked with people who obviously have been sick a long time sometimes, and the answers aren't so simple. You know, sometimes it's a bunch of different knots that you have to unravel. So I have a lot of compassion.
Yeah. Yes, because it's never easy if it's a long-term condition.
And the thing is, it's hard to do it completely. We can sometimes, but even sometimes it's helpful to talk to another person, you know. But it's hard to do all of this on your own because it's right where you can't see things that you know, and if somebody else can see it with you, that can really save you a lot of time and pain and suffering.
Yes, exactly. And also, you don't just work with people who have health complaints, let's put it like that, right? You can help people kind of unblock creative issues. And I'm going to give one example because I think this would be very helpful. I forget what year it was, but it was during one of your early visits to visit, you know, Tony and I when we were on Grand Bahama. And you said to me, you were there writing up your newsletter, and you said, I could do with some images to go in my newsletter. Do you have any? Have you got any of your paintings? And I said, yeah, actually, yes, yes, you know. So anyway, I let you have 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and you use them to illustrate your newsletter. And then you told me that there was really some great feedback about the images. And then the opening of that and the revelation of that and the feedback from that then led me via your prompting to create an account on Fine Art America and to make my artwork available and all of those things.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yes, it had this huge knock-on effect. And I remember having a conversation with you when you were saying, you know, there's been such great feedback, you should really, you know, make your work available outside of the Bahamas. And I was saying to you, well, I don't do that because it's so incredibly expensive to send paintings, you know, out of the Bahamas. It costs $100 or so. And you said, well, you know, maybe look online, you know. And then literally within I'm not joking, within less than 24 hours this notification, you know, when I was online, came up about Fine Art America, which I'd never even heard of.
Wow, that's amazing. No, I'm so glad you shared that. I know this is gonna, you know, I say things in the moment, it's really clear to me, and then it's gone. I don't remember it the next day.
Yeah, I do the same. The other thing that I'm going to share that's really well worth sharing is with respect to being prompted. When I never wanted to be an author, or I'd never imagined in a million years I'd be here hosting a YouTube channel, because you know, I've always been a contemplative and all of those things.
Yes,
right?
I get it.
you know. So, but you said to me some years ago, you just got, when I was prompted to start doing this work and to do healing, to do energy readings and stuff like that, and soul purpose readings.
So challenging.
You just turned to me and you said, Julie, you've just got to do it. You've just got to let it rip.
Because you're one of the most talented people I know. I mean, you're just amazing. You know, like having a reading from you, which I've had, can be life-changing, you know?
But it was that just let it rip that it just landed in me, and it was landed like this, like almighty explosion. And I knew that you were saying was absolutely true. I didn't have a clue. And then, of course, again, within 24 hours, I got an email from a client who sent me this kind of platform that she was using to create her website, which was I forget, was it Website Builder, or anyway, I forget the name of it. Site Builder. So I was like, holy moly, here it is, you know, and I just signed up, had 3 months free sign up, and then I was good to go. So, but it would never have happened if you hadn't said to me, you have to do it, Julie, just let it rip.
Oh,
It was like,
I'm really honored to hear this. I'm just like thrilled. You know, I want to say something because everyone can do this. Everyone can, you know, I always hold an intention, and I know you do too,
yes,
you know, to offer the highest you can. And so, you know, if I borrowed your art, I of course wanted to do anything I could as a thank you, right? You know?
yes.
So, but also you know, you know, as I said, I didn't even remember that conversation, but I'm sure I was so delighted to have such beautiful art, and, you know, the response, you know, I knew was very special. So that's really interesting. I don't know if I can share a story about you, because
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
now that we're sharing stories, because okay, so I was we were both living in an ashram together. And I was about to leave, and I had some pressing personal questions that never seemed to get resolved. And I remember I wrote my questions, and I placed them in a box for my meditation teacher. You know, not that she necessarily always would read it, but anyway, it still gets, because it comes immediately to that person. But anyway, I wrote my questions, and one of my requests that I would get a very specific answer. And you and I didn't even know, we knew each other and we hung out, but we didn't actually talk about personal things. We talked about our psychic experiences, healing, you know, having people visit us from other dimensions, things like that.
Yes.
And I went into the lunchroom to have lunch, not even a half an hour after I wrote this letter. And you came over to me. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do very well.
You answered every point in my letter as if you had just read my letter. It was just the most astonishing thing, and I burst into tears.
Yes.
And it was just like, I had asked for, like, I was like, I need concrete answers, and there you were giving me blow by blow. It was everything I had written in my letter. It was just amazing, and everything you said helped so much and came to pass. I mean, one of my questions at the time was whether I was going to get married or whether I had to surrender that. Of course, now I'm divorced. It was a beautiful process, getting married and the whole thing. So yeah, it was just phenomenal.
Yes. You know, and the great thing about what we're sharing now, it's all about giving testimony to the truth that when we're given gifts, it's really important to stand behind them and to share them appropriately, right? When the time is right and all of those things. And to really value what we've been given, because it would have been so easy for me to not say anything, because I remember when I asked you, can I join you, you know, for lunch? And I sat down immediately. I got this download, and I asked the question, is it okay to tell Diane this? Because it's kind of personal. And I waited till I got permission, and then I shared it all. But I could easily have just swallowed it and not, you know, thought, no, and then debated and said, no. But it's really important to be able to stand behind, to own, and then to share when the time is right.
That is such a profound thing you're saying, because that really affects me even now, you know, because you know, obviously when I was being pushed to become a healer and didn't want to do it, right? You know, I was thinking of me.
Yes.
Not how I could serve, right? It was too scary. I mean, obviously I got over that. But it is true that we need to share our gifts. And I also tend to sometimes, you know, just want to be quiet, stay in my own, I've written my book, so obviously something's out there, but I usually, if somebody doesn't ask, I don't say anything. So maybe I need to rethink that too sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Because what I've noticed that even when I go to the food store, for example, and I don't know the checkout girl or guy or whatever, I'll sometimes get a message to say something, and it might be, how's your day going? When do you get off or whatever, but it might be something a bit more specific and personal. And I've really learned to listen to that and to trust that, because that little seed of something might be enough to make that person take a leap of faith, or to trust what they're receiving as well. So it can be quite subtle, but it can also be really profound, just a
I
few
feel
words.
like saying that to me today is very profound. That's what I want to say. I feel like I'm getting a real affirmation on some projects I'm working on. So,
Yes. Yeah. And these are all calls to action that we get all the time, but oftentimes it's easy just to diminish or deny that or doubt it or whatever.
I hope everyone is really listening to this. This is the amazing thing about being with you. It's really an offering and a healing for everyone, all of you and I and everyone who's with us.
Yeah, because I'm sure you do the same thing. Before I do any one-on-one session or any group work or any interview or whatever I'm doing online, I always do puja. I go to my altar. I invoke the great beings that I work with. I ask for this to be a vehicle for the awakening power, and for people to receive healing and whatever they need to take away, for them to be able to stand in the truth of who they are. And it's always really powerful, and it's unfailing. The effect of it is always really spot on. It really works.
Yes, I do my own version, in the sense when anytime I start a healing, I bring in lots of high beings. I would never want to do it all on my own.
No. And it's a great way. What happens that doing that then is the personal I gets out of the way, and it's a supreme self or source itself, or whatever you want to term that, which is cannot be spoken about, really. I suppose you could put it like that, or God. It's that does the work, and that's when this incredible magic happens. And
one of the hardest things about going from being a journalist to a healer was, part of the whole transition was that, as a journalist, what I had as a healer, I want to say, in a certain way, the less I do, the more I can accomplish.
Yes.
And that's the inverse of what we're taught and what I was doing for most of my life. So it's not that I'm not doing anything, I'm there, and so my presence is very important, but at the same time, offering to be of service and to be the point person, so to speak.
Yes, it's about being empty enough to allow grace to work through you.
Yep.
And to let it do whatever it has to do. And also, part of that too is we're receiving as well while we're doing that work too, right? It's so incredible. Whenever I come off a session or an interview or anything, I just feel really amazing. I never feel drained at all.
Yeah. No.
It's just absolutely incredible, and it's a gift. I feel very, very blessed to be able to do this work. It's really incredible.
Me too.
Sure. Yeah. So I think maybe that's the end of this first episode. We can certainly have this conversation. We can have a few ongoing conversations about healing and stories and all of those things. But before we go, do you want to just tell people where they can find you, Diane?
Yes, I want to do two things. I want to say one thing, which is and we can talk more about this, but I just want to add one thought, which is that one of the things I love about healing and all this work is that it opens the door to understanding the universe in a completely different way.
Yes.
I can be reached at DianeGoldner.com. I try to make it easy, or Diane at DianeGoldner.com. I'm laughing. But anyway, that's how you can reach me.
And your books are on Amazon, correct?
My books are on Amazon.
Fantastic. Well, Diane, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been absolutely amazing. I've loved every minute. And I feel blessed. You know, I feel like I've received
I
this.
do too. I feel like I received a reading right here and now. And oh my God, so much Shakti. It's beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much, Julie. It was really a delight, a pleasure.
You're so welcome.
And I want to send love to everyone. You know, everyone who's with us. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today on Talking True. As always, I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed the content, then let people know. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That would be really great. So that's all from me and all from Diane for today. Take it easy, be well, and bye for now.